Welcome in. I'm Lindsay. I'm the woman with the nipples. I'm the founder of Soothe Beginnings, a breastfeeding counselor, a mom, of course, and I'm also a really big advocate for pacifier safety. Today, I've got a pretty good show for you. We're going to go over some of the more recent pacifier safety incidents that have occurred, and we have a couple. We're also going to talk about a product review. I know you guys love when I do product reviews. So I have it's pacifier related, adjacent, if you will. It's really going to be an interesting one that I don't think a lot of people would have thought of. I think it's one of those products you see it, so you grab it. So we're going to review it and see if it's a necessary item or if it really is a skip it type of item in the pacifier world. I am going to talk about a little bit more of my story, what actually occurred and led me to this journey of inventing a safer pacifier that's more convenient, what actually transpired and occurred, and why I'm advocating for more pacifier safety because of everything that we had gone through. I'm also going to go over some pacifier myth busting. I used to love that show Mythbusters. So now I have fun trying to bring it to the pacifier world of pacifier myth busting. There's a lot of misconceptions. We're going to clear up some of those for you. And lastly, we are going to talk about choosing the right pacifier with a open back design versus closed design. There's some pros and cons a lot of parents aren't aware of, so we're going to demystify that for you, if you will. Let's get started. All right, this month's pacifier safety incidents. So the first one is actually going to be a MAM pacifier. Now, this is not the specific model. I will have a picture showing you the model. There was an incident occurred this month reported to saferproducts.gov. What happened was their child wasn't sick and she noticed her baby was coughing. So she went over and tried to see what was going on, took his pacifier out of his mouth, and she noticed a major rip and tear in the pacifier, understandably. So she was very upset. We've got a couple of things going on here. First of all, anytime you give your child a pacifier, you want to inspect it. Do a little pull test, check the nipple, look for cracks, any kind of wear, tear, or damage. You want to do this every time you give your child a pacifier. Now, pacifiers do get, wear and tear, and they need that routine replacement, but if your child is chewing on the pacifier, it's going to create some abrasions in the pacifier nipple. We don't want this to lead to a choking hazard where they bite a chunk off and now we have a choking hazard situation on our hands. We want to avoid that. So always check your child's pacifier before you give it to them. Make sure it is clear of wear, tear, and damage. The other thing I want to talk about here is that if you see your child chewing on their pacifier, so if you've got a teething child, they're chewing on their pacifier, I need you to swap it out with a teether. Why? Because we don't want to encourage chewing on the pacifier. That's not what they're made for. We're going to get a choking risk. So when you see your child chewing on a pacifier, we're going to swap it out with the teether so they say, okay, this is what I can gnaw on. So those are some things to be very aware of. They're not meant to be chewed on, so do that swap out because that's going to keep them a lot safer. And, chewing on it, we don't want puncture holes. We don't want to weaken the nipple, the pacifier, anything like that. So do keep that in mind. The other aspect is very near and dear to my heart is batch testing. So this is now the company standpoint of, I believe that every pacifier batch should be tested. Part of pacifier testing is actually a pull test. We want to make sure that pacifiers are doing well with their quality control. The batch of, silicone wasn't compromised in any way or switched or anything like that. So that's where making sure that whatever company it is that you're going with, see about their testing practices and how frequently they test. The standard is to only test once per year, which is very clearly inadequate, but we want to make sure we're not having any integrity issues with the product and the material. One of the things they do test for is that pull test, and they do the pull test after some rapid heating and cooling as well, which is really interesting. So always check your baby's pacifier every time you give it to them. Do your own little pull test here. If you see your child chewing on their pacifier, swap it out for a teether. And always make sure that whatever company it is you purchase from, that you are comfortable with their testing practices. Our company, we're doing every single batch. I believe that's what the standard should be. Okay, the next incident that we're going to talk about today is not an incident that's occurred yet. Literally in this last week, There is a viral trend going on with pacifiers. I get it. Every parent wants a keepsake for their kiddo's pacifier. And what they're doing is they are cutting off the nipple and then hot gluing a magnet onto the pacifier. We got a few issues, you guys. For starters, this is your child's most beloved item. They love it more than anything. You tell me they're not going to go after it. Okay, if it's on a fridge, they're going to try to climb the counter to get that pacifier. They are going to want their pacifier. So that's an inherent risk, number one. The other risk is that we're now hot gluing or super gluing a magnet to that beloved item. There are so many magnet incidents reported every year. Please avoid gluing a magnet to a baby product. Please, please, please. This is not safe. This is going to go very sideways very quickly. Not a good trend. I get it. It's like an easy DIY kind of cutesy thing, but we are neglecting the safety element here. There are way cuter options. You can do a super cute little shadow box. You can put their hospital bracelet. You can put, their little beanie from the hospital. So make a cute little shadow box. That's a really great way to display that keepsake and mementos. You could also do those Christmas ornaments where it's a clear plastic ball that you can pop them together. Put the pacifier in there. That would be adorable. The other option is you can cut the pacifier nipple off and slide it into the baby album sleeve. So if you have like a photo album, you can slide it in there. Or just throw the pacifier as it is into, if you have like a keepsake box. Like I have a keepsake box with outfits and shoes and different artwork my daughter's done, things like that. So you can always put it into the keepsake box. But we really need to avoid the trend of cutting the nipple off and gluing a magnet to it. We are asking for a hospital visit. We are asking for issues and incidents. Not to mention, that's not fair to your child to see that product, the item that they love, just out of reach. We don't want to encourage them to go for it. So those are my incidents for today. Next up, we are going to do a review of the Munchkin Arm & Hammer pacifier wipes. This is a little bit of an unusual product review, if you will. I typically don't do pacifier adjacent products, but this one caught my eye in Target, and I really wanted to investigate it, see what's going on with it. Is this a necessary item? Is this a skip it? So the Munchkin Arm & Hammer pacifier wipes. They're using, more natural ingredients, no harsh chemicals, and using the power of baking soda to clean your pacifier. And I get it. You're out and about. You've got pacifiers with your baby. Your baby drops a pacifier. Something happens, right? Well, guess what? These wipes don't sanitize. I cannot think of any specific scenario that I need to just wipe the pacifier versus sanitizing it before putting it back in my baby's mouth. I literally cannot think of a scenario. To me, these are a total skip it. I do not see the point. I think this is just a money grab. That's what it feels like to me, is just a money grab. So it's wiping it, but it's not actually truly cleaning it. So these are a total skip it. I also think it's giving a false sense of security of, oh, hey, this is now clean. Like you dropped it on a store. You're walking through Target. You dropped the pacifier in the store, right? Now you use the wipe to clean it. It's still not sanitary. We're still giving bacteria, possibly yeast, back into our child's mouth, which we don't want to do. So what I'm going to recommend we do instead, I'm a huge fan of traveling with at least a couple pacifiers. I'm not a fan of pacifier clips unless you are supervising them. Like you have to supervise your child. There are so many incidents with these. What I do recommend using are those little bags that you can clip onto your purse. So you don't have to carry a whole diaper bag into the store. Clip it onto your purse. So you have like a little extra freshy pacifier right there. So just do a swap out. That's all you need to do. You don't need to carry, really extra stuff. Just clip it onto your purse and you are good to go with extra fresh pacifiers that are in fact sanitized. Because like I said, I cannot think of a specific scenario at all that using those wipes is going to trump actually sanitizing your pacifier. So I do think it's a little bit of false advertising, and I think it's just a bit of a money grab. Now, in order to sanitize your pacifier, read the instructions. Some pacifiers you can sanitize in a multitude of convenient ways. Some you kind of can't. So this is going to look like either your countertop or microwave steamer, boiling water, dishwasher. We love dishwasher. That was one of my goals. I was like, I want convenient. We need to make cleaning convenient, and this product is just a mess. Next up, I'm actually going to tell you a bit about my story, how I got started in all of this. Welcome back. I'm going to tell you about my story and how I ended up the woman with the nipples, how I ended up a pacifier safety advocate, how I ended up inventing a pacifier. Like, how does this happen? I was an optician and I was in the optical industry for 10 years. We got pregnant and we decided that once my daughter was born, I would stay home with her. So here I am in the hospital. I gave birth. She's our first and only. I give birth, and what that looks like is being wheeled from the delivery room to the recovery room. I got hit really hard with postpartum depression. That is the moment it hit me. And it was scary, and it was dark, and it was very isolating and lonely, and not the experience you picture having when you bring your baby home. Fast forward, we bring our baby home. We very quickly realized something was up. She was very colicky, up all night screaming, crying. It took both of us all night to try to get her any sleep. It was rough. What we ended up figuring out was that she had a reflux situation going on. She had an oral tie situation, a reflux situation. Like, it was just a disaster. She wasn't able to latch. There's a lot that I know now that I didn't know then, but what it really looked like was I was battling postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, and I had a colic baby. I was over the top desperate to find a pacifier my daughter would take. We went through so many pacifiers. I was sending my husband out like almost constantly, like, go find another one. Like, it was just a horrible experience that it's such a really difficult time already. I didn't need to be fumbling through trying to find a pacifier, because I just needed to take a pacifier. I just needed sleep. Like, that's what we were confronted with. I wouldn't wish that experience on anybody. So we're going through all these different pacifiers, and I joke we ended up with like a pacifier reject drawer, which was part of, I was like, this is really wasteful financially, but also like plastic and product wise, like it's very wasteful. And so in my head, once, we started getting sleep again and figuring out the reflux, in my head, I was like, this needs to be easier for new parents. You're going through all these different brands. They're all claiming to be the best or best for oral development. Like, it was just confusing, stressful, and not necessary. I had the idea if we took one pacifier and made it so you could swap it out, so you could actually, figure out which nipple it is that your baby likes without having to buy a million pacifiers. I just wanted to buy one and call it a day. I wanted a pacifier that didn't have plastic because I felt like there were so many with plastic attached, and now that we're learning a little bit more about that, I was like, if I could find without plastic, that'd be great. I would like an eco-friendly one. I would like whatever is best for my baby. I would like the correct shape. The only pacifier, again, we were dealing with an oral tie situation. The only pacifier my daughter would end up taking was an orthodontic shape. She ended up taking the Tommy Tippy ones. And, I didn't know then what I know now about pacifier shapes. But what we were having going on with these is that anytime I would wash or clean them, these would just take on water. Like, we got so much water in the nipples. I had to constantly throw these out. I spent so much money replacing cheap pacifiers because some of them would only make it a week before they were taking on saliva and water and moisture, which is going to grow bacteria and mold. You don't want that in your newborn baby's mouth. So I was just so fed up with these cheap pacifiers. The whole situation of finding a pacifier, trying to clean these pacifiers was just impossible and frustrating that I just spent so much money on pacifiers. Something needed to be done. So I had the idea for that interchangeable pacifier that you can, in fact, I'm going to open it. You can, in fact, actually put it into the dishwasher. You can clean out the inside. That was part of the goal here. I went to a safety consultant. That was the first thing I did. I actually sold a diamond ring to pay for the safety consultant, because before I have this, crazy idea of a new pacifier design, what is a safety consultant going to say? It's a baby product. They use them without supervision. They use pacifiers when they're sleeping. Like, this needs to be a safe product. Can this even be done? Safety consultant kind of blew my mind a little bit. He laid out all of the testing and requirements and regulations on pacifiers. And as a mom, I was pretty heartbroken. I realized how the regulations aren't enough. I was very fortunate to meet other people in the safety industry in the baby space, and they guided me to other resources. I was able to look up incidents that have occurred. I was able to look into ER records. I was able to look at complaints and incidents on saferproducts.gov. That blew my mind. This became a safety mission. But I also remembered I was that mom that was sleep deprived. I was that mom that was just desperate. I would have done the most convenient thing. I was trying to be a safety-minded parent. You don't know what you don't know, right? But sleep-deprived parents are going to do what works and what is convenient. So I needed to make safety the convenient option. We needed these safety incidents to stop. We needed somebody to design a better pacifier that was going to stop these issues of finger entrapment, disgusting bacteria mildew growth, pacifiers that aren't being tested frequently enough, pacifiers that are causing allergic reactions. There was so much going on. Somebody needed to do something, and it didn't take a genius to figure it out. And that's the crazy part to me. It did not take a genius. It just took somebody that was going to be brave enough. So here I am launching Soothe Beginnings, because this is the pacifier I wish I could have given my daughter. This is the pacifier my daughter deserved, and I think parents deserve an easier time trying to navigate pacifiers as well. Next up, we're going to go into a little bit more fun with pacifier myth busting. Pacifier myth busting. Let's have a little bit of fun. Pacifiers are going to make my baby dependent on it. What do we think? The truth is that babies are born with sucking to soothe. It's a reflex, the sucking reflex. They're born that way. They practice sucking before they're born. Now, here's the thing. It is a tool in the toolbox, not the tool. So there are other strategies and methods to soothe your child. And once that reflex has kind of gone away, you can introduce, and in an age-appropriate way, you can introduce other comfort measures as well. So the pacifier doesn't need to be their only way to soothe themselves. It is natural, it's instinctive. So we have to understand that element, but it's not the only tool in the toolbox. A little bit of skin to skin. As they get older, we give them a little lovey during their wake windows, or as they're older and we're weaning off the pacifier, if age appropriate, giving them a stuffed animal at bedtime. So there are other ways to soothe our child. It's not the end all be all. It's not going to make them more dependent. It's a matter of, we as parents, what do we give them as soothing tools? What does our toolkit look like, right? The shushing, the swaying, the skin to skin, feeling mom's heartbeat. There are so many different things that we can do to soothe our baby. The pacifier does not need to be all of it, nor should it be. So it's a tool in the toolbox, not the only tool. Next up, this is such a good one. Pacifiers cause speech problems. They can. And this is what you, the parent, need to know. If you are at an age where your baby is starting to verbalize and start, they're babbling, things like that, we do want to start taking out the pacifier. We don't want the pacifier in all the time, you guys. Taking out the pacifier so they can start practicing those words and the, mama sound and dada. I know we know dada always goes first, but start practicing those sounds, because they can't do that with a pacifier in their mouths. Now, when they start getting a little bit older, right, they're a toddler, they're going to start trying to talk a little bit more. What we noticed on our own daughter was she was a pacifier junkie, and that is my own fault. We noticed that she would rather suck on a pacifier than practice talking. So for us, it was time to start the pacifier weaning process. That was one of the triggers for us, is because we didn't want to create an issue with speech. So Pacifiers inherently on their own are not causing speech problems. Overuse can, okay? So if you're using the pacifier way too long and in instances where they should practice talking, that is a problem. The other thing that we also knew about our daughter was that she would practice new skills like talking at bedtime. Well, if she had a pacifier in her mouth to sleep, she wasn't going to practice. So these were things that we, as her parents, knowing when she likes to practice, the age she was at, she was 14 months old when we did end up getting off the pacifier. So these are all good things to keep in mind. You know your child best. You need to know when is the right time, not the right time, and that can actually help you with knowing if it's time to pacifier wean, if you see that it's starting to get in the way, and that is okay. I do have that pacifier weaning guide in the profile. You can always grab that as well. It was such a good one. All pacifiers are the same. So if you listened to my story earlier, you will very clearly see all pacifiers are definitely very much so not the same. There are some pacifiers that are not safe for sleep, the ones with the stuffed animals attached, or if they have a pacifier clip on there. You do have the all silicone ones. You've got plastic and silicone. You've got latex. There's so many different materials. Pacifier nipple shapes, like there is a widespread variety. Some are going to be better than others. There are going to be pros and cons to different designs. It is all what I'm about is giving you the education so you, the parent, can make the best decision for your family. There are going to be parents that, as long as it's silicone, not the latex situation, that's their main goal. There are going to be parents that would prefer a plastic-free pacifier. There are going to be parents that truly want the best shape for their baby. So it's all going to look different, and there's a whole variety in the pros and cons. You can drop any questions you might have below about different aspects of pacifiers and what those pros and cons might look like. So next up, I'm actually going to dive into this a little bit more. We're going to talk about open versus closed pacifier designs and the pros and cons. All right, let's talk about choosing the right pacifier, open versus closed pacifier designs. There are some mega pros and cons that many parents are not aware of. When it comes to open back pacifiers, we do run the risk of finger entrapment. And when I say we run the risk, I mean it happens very frequently across different ages. Babies using the age-appropriate pacifier are getting their fingers stuck in pacifiers. And I'm seeing it across the board with the open back pacifiers. So it's something to be aware of. The great pros of these are that they are easy to clean, especially when they're all silicone. They are easy to clean, and we do like that. We're not getting any moisture trapped. I love that aspect. However, we need to watch the fingers because it happens a lot. I kind of relate it to almost like a hair tourniquet. The swelling happens very quickly, so you do need to be very aware of that, okay? If it happens, be aware, know what to look for. If your baby seems to be crying for no reason, check their fingers. So that is the downside to the open back pacifiers, is we do see a lot of finger entrapment. Now, the closed style pacifier, the issue here is that these are trapping a lot of moisture, and bacteria starts to grow, sometimes even mold, you guys. We don't have a finger entrapment issue, which is great, but you're probably going to be replacing these much more frequently. Like we were swapping these out weekly because as soon as water, saliva got in there, it was time to throw it away because I didn't want to grow bacteria and then put that in my daughter's mouth. We know there's a link between pacifier use and ear infections after 6 months of age. So it was very important to not be introducing extra bacteria that could pose a problem. So while we've got no finger issue, we do have the issue of the moisture trapping. The other issue with a lot of these style of pacifiers, if you're not replacing them frequently enough, we've seen a lot of nipple separation, and keep in mind how narrow these nipples are. That can pose a choking hazard. So we need to be very, very, very cautious about that as well. So those were elements that were part of the pacifier design for what I did with the Soothe Beginnings pacifier, that each component, obviously, you see how much larger that nipple is versus the base of this nipple here, right? That was on purpose because we wanted this to be as safe as possible. I made it as large as I could, so it's not as narrow. We don't want anything going down the windpipe. These are totally dishwasher safe, so you don't have to worry about it trapping anything, which is great. And then you are screwing this on, and again, you want to make sure you're using, adult strength. Screw that bad boy on there. This is a advanced development skill that babies do not have to unscrew something like that, but the fact that it takes that level of adult strength is something to keep in mind as well. We are not getting fingers going in there, but we are able to clean this pacifier in the best of both worlds, if you will. There is no plastic, but I designed it because those were two very common issues with pacifiers. So we are now solving that issue. And we wanted it to be as safe as humanly possible, that you're not just able to unscrew it. Like, it actually takes adult strength. And the great thing about it is that we actually made it so that when you are screwing this on, you can over tighten this sucker to the point we actually needed vice grips to undo it. Had a little fun with it, if you will, and manhandled this pacifier. So yeah, so we're not trapping moisture, we're not getting finger entrapment. Those are really, really important features for me, just to kind of keep those in mind as we are trying to clean the pacifier, making things convenient, but also knowing that babies use pacifiers in their sleep spaces without parental supervision is very important. So we've got some takeaways for today. Always, always, always inspect your baby's pacifier for any signs of wear, tear, damage, and if you see anything, replace that nipple. We don't want them swallowing it. Don't encourage your baby to chew on their pacifier. Swap it out with a teether. If they're using their pacifier like a teether, swap it out for a teether. We don't want safety issues, you guys. The social media hacks, the DIYs, the hacks, the cutting the pacifier, the gluing a magnet, so now it's a magnet memento. Please don't do that. There are safer alternatives. And I know it's like you scroll across and you're like, oh, what a cute idea. There are a lot of safety issues in these trends that I keep seeing going viral. So please, let's keep it real, keep it safety minded. There are easy DIY cute alternatives as well that just didn't go viral. Check out my profile, subscribe. I've got a lot of goodies here for you guys. Any questions that you have, drop them. Go to SootheBeginnings.com, hop on the email list. You will get all kinds of incentives and goodies. But any questions you have, I'm here. Have a great day.